You know, we get told you have to be happy all the time, you know, so everyone's trying to find this happiness all the time, but it's so unrealistic, and it loses touch with people's inner self, because when they're not happy, they think their life's over. Oh my God, and they freak out, and you're like, no, that's just normal.
Welcome to an episode of Find Your Voice, a movement led by yours truly, Aaron Dew, a guy who has overcome crippling anxiety, adversity, and difficulty like so many of you in life, whose main goal now is to help you combat your excuses, take control of your life, write your own story, and most importantly, find your voice. So now, without further ado, I welcome the host of the show himself, Mr. Aaron Dew.
If you could just let the listeners know a little bit about yourself, the things that you've been doing in your career. I mean, obviously they're going to research you after this, but mate, what a career so far.
Yeah, thanks. So look, you know, I guess it all just started from my childhood, and you know, it was a little bit rough. Went through a bit of child abuse and that sort of stuck with me for a long time, and I just tried to find all sorts of ways to deal with the PTSD from that. And, you know, like I traveled the world, I've done sports, I'd had relationships, I'd had successful businesses, but I was still, you know, not finding that peace that I wanted to. And until I decided to do this paddle of 500 miles down the east coast of Australia. And, you know, it changed my life along the way. You know, 21 shark encounters, I had near drownings, loss of food and water, sleeping on the beach at night. 17 days by myself, no support boats or no one on land supporting along. You know, it was just, it was the greatest test that I've ever done, and it's probably the greatest test I'll ever do of my life, and it really set me up for what I do now.
Fantastic. So I did read a little bit about your child abuse and the PTSD that you went through as well. In your current circumstance now, would you say that still affects your life as well?
No, not at all. No, like I've completely cured myself from the PTSD from it, and I've got absolutely no emotional attachment to what happened. Of course, I still remember things that happened, but yeah, as I said, there's no emotional attachment anymore, which is something I'm proud of. You know, that sort of hung on my shoulders for 34 years, controlling my life and getting triggered off every single day with different sights and smells and actions that people were doing. So, you know, it's good to be able to have broken free of that, and to be able to move on and to be able to share this with other people as well.
Absolutely. And now you're obviously traveling a lot. I've seen a lot of your social media stuff as well. You're doing a lot of speaking as well. You're also an author, a TEDx speaker. I mean, what's a day-to-day like then for yourself? Because it seems quite entertaining. I mean, like I said, I'm very jealous of them palm trees right behind you right now.
Yeah. Look, you know, it's funny. I was out surfing this morning and I was talking to this guy from New York, and he's like, you know, what do you do? You know, and I'm like, well, at the moment I'm here at this beautiful retreat, and I'm building their retreat programs for people to be able to come here and, you know, and give them that week away where they can experience more of themselves and rediscover themselves. You know, and then in between that, I do talks, as he said, TED Talks and that around the world, and inspirational talks, and from schools to corporates to all sorts, really. And then, so I've written a book and created a form of meditation called the One Breath Meditation. So that's getting published at the moment. And then I've got a second book, which is my memoirs, which is I'm writing at the moment, and then I'm working towards my next lot of challenges. So for 2020, 2021, I'm doing a TV series with 11 different extreme challenges as well.
Fantastic, mate. Just in case your CV isn't enough, you want to add to it, which is obviously exciting for all of us to obviously see. But even more importantly than that was your humanitarian side. And I've seen some of the work that you're doing, and you're not somebody who just preaches it, you're somebody who acts it. And for that, you know, I acknowledge you for that. And if you wouldn't mind, if you could just share some of that with the listeners, because these are the kind of guests I want to bring on the show, not just people who just seem to have it all figured out and doing the Instagram stuff. You're also doing stuff behind scenes to make a real impact. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff I do is behind the scene. I'm not actually that big on social media. I know we have to do it just for people to be able to see what we're doing and that. But for me, it's about behind the scenes and really just living it. And so at the moment, we're in Child Abuse Awareness Week, which goes from the 1st till the 12th of January. and there's 9 different events that are going on all over the world, from paddle outs to runs to walk, so I really work on that, and it's really not just about the awareness, it's about educating people on the important sides of things, but also educating tools to be able to keep moving forward, on for different issues, whether it's suicide or depression or domestic violence, but not much is actually getting done about it. So, I think a week for it. So I really spend these next week, 12 days, just really giving people the total view of it all, and the statistics that's what's really happening. But yeah, besides that, I mean, it's every day of my life. I have, maybe 200-300 people reach out to me a week, telling me their stories and sharing, horrific stories for the first time. And, and we talk about it, and I share the tools with them, and, help people get through what they can. It's not something that I set out to do, to be like this and to live this life. But it's, after my paddle, it's sort of my journey was set for me, and it's just how I am. And because I'm like to stay as authentic as I can. So I make sure I live it, breathe it, experience it, know it before I share it with anyone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that message. I wish more people did that. And you touched on something interesting there. So there's a lot of causes in the world where people are hashtagging it and almost raising awareness. And I use that quite lightly, because that isn't going to change the situation. We need action. And this is something that I'm trying to work towards this year. So the first year was obviously building this podcast, and it grew a lot quicker than I actually thought it was going to grow. But now it's not just a matter of let's write something in hashtag mental health. Let's actually change the conversation. Let's change the topic. Let's create stuff. And I absolutely love that you're doing that with this paddle stuff. But again, it doesn't surprise me, some of the stuff that you've done. You've got world records in like physical stuff as well. And you just seem to be testing the waters, I suppose, of your potential, which is what I absolutely want from all of the listeners in this. Have you got any sort of tips or any tricks or anything like that you could literally give now? And I know it's quite an open-ended question and there might not be an answer for it, for somebody maybe stuck in a rut, because I find that a lot of people have the desire to want to be better and do better. It's 2020, it's a new me, it's a new year, but there's always something that's quite common amongst people, that they just seem to fall short and not actually go and achieve their goals, or maybe overcome that trauma that they've been through. Is there any advice that maybe you could offer?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just test yourself daily on big and small tests. Just challenge yourself, just to be able to, hold yourself accountable to be able to keep moving forward. And it can be, you don't have to paddle 500 miles or skateboard across countries like I do. Like, I do it in the extreme way. So people think, walking around the block isn't so bad. I take the excuses out of people's lives almost, and to test themselves, So I just tell people just to test yourself, little and big, whether it's, a chili eating contest, baking a cake for the first time, getting your PB on a run, going out for a surf for the first time, anything that's first or that you've always wanted to do. Like, it might be asking out the person who serves you coffee every morning, and you've always wanted to, but you've always been too scared, just set yourself little tests, and, doors just start opening up after that.
Absolutely. I love that advice, because so often, we'll see somebody like yourself who's on the cover of magazines with world records, but we forget that you didn't one day just wake up and suddenly start achieving world records. We kind of forget the story behind it. And this is, again, I think in Find Your Voice, I think if we can just action these very, very small challenges on a daily basis. Only this year, I've started offering the chance to do a video conversation. So I would like to just sit in a quiet room, being very introverted in my nature, but now I'm sitting here looking, and I'm feeling comfortable. I'm getting over it slowly. So bear with me as I go through my own journey as well. And this is what I want to encourage people. Like, I try and show my vulnerabilities. And for me, this is a big step. Speaking with somebody like yourself who seems an extrovert on the exterior, you've done some public speaking, you've done some incredible things. And I'm now trying to push my barriers and trying to give the best information I can give to my listeners as well. So, and for anyone listening, it can be as small as literally asking that person who's giving you coffee in the morning, or as simple as, like you said, baking a cake, or just trying something new. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. What's that noise?
I'm not sure, mate. I know nothing that exciting happening over here.
I don't know. There's something going on over here.
Yeah, I feel like it's coming closer towards you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's one of the horses. It could be one of the horses, actually.
No problem, no problem. Well, your life's a lot more entertaining than mine. There's nothing happening.
Yeah, look, it is. But yeah, just going back on that point. Yeah, look, just testing yourself is so important, and just finding out who you are, and just be proud of every moment that you have in life. You know, and it's people forget the challenges that they've gone through in life, and the tests that build up their resilience to be able to get through to the next challenge. You know, they're just happy to get through that tough time and keep moving, instead of stopping the process. What's really happened to them, and how it's strengthened them to be able to get through. You know, and the more we build that up, is, you know, they're more tools in our back pocket to take us through to the next challenge. And, you know, what seem like major issues today, you know, in a couple of weeks, if we think about what we've gone through, will just not seem like anything at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I think that was one of the important messages that I recognized this year, was to do a self-reflection on 2019, and not just look at the good stuff, but also look at the bad stuff as well, because within those moments, that's where we kind of find the resilience tools or the ways that we can overcome adversity. So for anyone listening, maybe going through something, give yourself a reminder. I think that thing's coming back for you, by the way. Give yourself a reminder that have a look back at how far you've come in your journey and how well you've done as well. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Let me go over here.
If I may just segue into a time of adversity for yourself. Now, I always ask this question because, again, on the cover now, you look like you have it all figured out. You're living a great life. You're getting chased by elephants live in a podcast interview with myself, which is very exciting. But if you wouldn't mind, if you could just kind of give us maybe a story or scenario. I mean, it could be a year ago. It could be back when you were a child, or when you went through something, and just more importantly, the lessons that you learned from it.
Yeah, as I said at the start, you know, like I went through pretty horrific childhood abuse, sexual, mental, emotional. You know, it stuck with me for a long time, and it really just controlled everything and dictated how everything was in my life, you know, and just, it really put a weight, and it made everything, like every just simple task, just seem like a real major issue to try and get through. So for me, you know, after doing the paddle, I mean, that was the greatest challenge of my life, and everything that I got through there, you know, I learned a lot of tools along the way, but that's not to say that just because I've cured myself of PTSD, that life is totally rosy every single day. You know, I'm not the Dalai Lama at all. Like, I just, you know, I have my ups and downs like everyone else. But the difference is that, you know, my ups and downs are for today and today's issues. I don't bring them up from the past anymore. So they don't build up. And then when they do, I just deal with them straight away, and then away I go. And I think that's important for people as well, you know, to face the problems as they're there, so they don't build up. And then you start strengthening, you start learning a lot more about how to deal with issues, and how to treat your emotions during each action and reaction that you do, you know, instead of just suppressing it down. You know, when we're kids, we do things intuitively, like we learn, we explore, including our emotions. And later on in life, we get taken away from that intuition and start looking elsewhere for answers of who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act. And, you know, we get told you have to be happy all the time, you know, so everyone's trying to find this happiness all the time, but it's so unrealistic, and it loses touch with people's inner self, because when they're not happy, they think their life's over. Oh my God, and they freak out, and you're like, no, that's just normal. Just explore it, you know, be happy, be sad, be angry, be whatever it is, you know. And the more that you do it, and the more you explore it and let it out, and then process it afterwards, then you know when these emotions happen, you know it's right, you know you're not losing your mind.
Absolutely. Wow, what an answer, mate. Thank you for that. And I think that's really important, and resonates with myself as well, because a lot of my dark times in my life have been from suppressing my emotions, and especially as a guy as well. I think it's only recently become a thing where guys start to talk, and I've actually started a separate podcast just on men's mental health, getting guys to just talk about the silliest things, the things that maybe we think about that our wives or our sisters and our mothers might not know. And it's massively, massively helped. But there was a brilliant thing you just mentioned there in terms of make today's problems just today's problems and kind of figure it out there and then and not think about yesterday or tomorrow. So I think that's really, really important moving forward for people. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. In this precise moment right now, then, what's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? My biggest fear is actually a physical challenge, and it's not a fear. I don't really go into anything with fear. It's just I know it's going to test me, and I know I need to prepare myself to be able to get through it. But it's something that I think about every day, and I probably won't do this challenge for maybe 18 months away from now, but I'm preparing for it now. But apart from that, I don't know if I have too many fears as such. I just I love learning, and I've taken away the words try, fail, and impossible, and I just replace them with do, learn, and possible. Then it's not so bad. And I think if people take that away and take that word, especially fail, out of their life, then instantly walls just come down and they're more open to do things, and they also succeed a little bit more. They don't go into it thinking that they're going to fail. They're just going to do it and they're going to learn from it, and that's it, and that's I think you're on the right track and you can't really get it wrong.
Absolutely. I love that answer. And that actually reminded me randomly of one of your taglines. I think it was on your website, triumph over adversity as well. And that was something else that resonates as well. And you can hear that in the language that you use for yourself. So we need to remove these words like failure out of our lives, because they're not serving us. They're not moving us forward. They're creating limiting beliefs for our lives. So fantastic. I absolutely love that. And on that note, what we're going to do, Damien, is move us to the fun part of the show. So if you haven't heard this part of the show in this episode, what I do is just for the next 60 to 90 seconds, I ask you a bunch of random questions where it's a one word or a one sentence answer, mate. So whenever you're ready, we're going to get started.
All right, let's rip in.
Okay, let's go, buddy. Okay, we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Your favorite quote or mantra?
Live life to the fullest.
Your favorite film?
Scarface.
Your proudest achievement?
My 500-mile paddle.
Your preferred genre of music?
Depends where I am. Rock.
If you had an extra hour a day, how would you spend it?
Giving to others.
I love that. The best lesson anyone has ever taught you?
Sort your own shit out yourself.
If you could get the listeners to practice one thing a day that would benefit them, starting today, what would it be?
Test yourself.
If you could abolish one thing in the world, what would it be?
Child sex slavery.
What is your favorite book?
Besides the one I wrote. I don't know. I don't read too many books, to be honest.
Okay. What was the book that you wrote?
So I wrote a book called One Breath Meditation. It's a new form of meditation.
What are you secretly good at that nobody knows?
Probably counting. Maths.
Okay. The ability to read minds or predict the future?
Neither. I like to explore it all. I don't want to know. I just explore it.
Interesting. Your biggest role model?
My biggest role models are anyone who's stepping out of their comfort zone.
I love that. Damien, what would you like to be remembered for?
I don't know. Just being a good bloke, I guess.
I love that. Your biggest goal for 2020?
Do these 11 challenges and not die.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed you stay safe. And finally, if you could sit with one person, dead or alive, for an hour, who would it be? Fantastic. How did you find that?
Yeah, that was cool.
Good stuff. Well, best of luck for the 11 challenges. And what I'm going to do as well is your book as well. I'll put it in the show notes at the end as well, if anyone is interested as well, because I think meditation has come up on so many episodes, and it's something that even myself, I'll be very interested in learning about as well. So thank you for sharing that as well.
Yeah, cool. No worries. Yeah, and if anyone wants to get any more private coaching, they can come out here to Nazada Point in El Salvador. or I do private in-houses as well.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, so we're kind of coming towards the end of the show now, Damien, and what the last two questions are about reflection and legacy. So firstly, I want to talk about reflection. So hindsight is a wonderful thing, as you know. It teaches us ways to get to where we are quicker, easier, or with less heartache. But at the same time, I feel the journey teaches us so much as well and really makes us who we are today. So knowing what you know now with all of your tools and your mindset as it currently stands, if you could maybe go back to a younger Damien, maybe where you were confused or just struggling with a specific area of your life and whisper something in your ears, what would you say?
You'll get through it.
And finally then, so the final question I'd like to ask is actually about a book. So it's about legacy. And if in 150 years time, by the way, it can't be your current book, it has to be a new book. If in 150 years time, science fails to save us and all that exists is this one book, and this book is about you, it's about your life and all the incredible, amazing ups and downs that you've had. Firstly, what would the title be? And secondly, what would the summary at the back tell us about you?
The title will be Heart of the Sea, and it will be about my paddle and what I discovered on the paddle.
I love that. And just before I close the show and give you a chance to obviously connect with the audience with your social media handles, are there any questions or are there any messages that you want to leave the audience with today?
Look, I think we covered it all. I think just test yourself, be proud of who you are, know that you can change at any time and you can be whoever you want, whenever you want. And I want to thank you as well, and congratulations on your podcast. I know that they're super hard to do, and so for you to put them together and be dedicated and committed to it, it's I'm proud of you, mate.
Thank you. I received that. That means a lot coming from yourself. And I will make sure all of your links are in the show notes for everybody at home. Damien, this has been an absolute pleasure. Obviously, we've had to relocate you 3 times wherever you are because of the noise. But hopefully people have heard your message because it's true, it's authentic. And there are just some things that in its simplest form are simple in terms of just trying to be yourself, removing certain words out of our daily language that can really help us move forward, but it will take us action. So what I do encourage people, obviously, after this episode is to follow yourself. So hopefully you can get a few people maybe sliding into your DMs, just asking for a little bit of help. And if you could obviously return that favor, I'll be internally grateful as well, my friend.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, man.
And remember, this podcast is absolutely free. So all we ask in return is for you to share this with a friend and drop us a 5-star review over on iTunes. Have an awesome day.